Hello, viewers. My name is Zach Hardy, and this is the launch of, well, I guess it will be the launch of a new series that I have. I've received an email, and after looking at the emails that I've gotten from people who want me to put anything down, um, or any like questions you wanted me to answer on the podcast or on the Hardyac questions and answers, I got this email, and the subject was titled, "Please make this a separate video." Um, and I know the person who sent me this email, and it's kind of interesting. Um, it was an interesting question, and I think this will be a very cool thing to talk about. So, without further ado, you know what? I should probably lower the dimness on my microphone, or I'm not, or on my computer. I guess I shouldn't do that because I won't notice. Anyway, I'm sorry for those of you who see this camera and see a big bright white face. I apologize for that. It's my apologies. But I got this question, and I guess I'll start off with plugs. First off, follow me on Twitter at Zachary Sarah, updates on the channel and everything else. And if you have a question to send me for the Hardyac Wrestling Podcast or the Hardyac Questions and Answers, send them to unitards@gmail.com. That's unitards with two Z's at the end at gmail.com. And I got this question. The subject, of course, says, "Please make this a separate video," and I'll read it to you. It says, "Hello, Zach. As you have seen the subject to this email, I would like you to make this into a separate video. I have an idea for you to make into a video for the Unitards channel. I would also like to see you make this video into a video series of its own. This is the question that I ask you. What is your review of WWE WrestleMania 24? The reason why I ask you this question is because I want you to make this into a new series that is based around WWE pay-per-views from the years past to present day, from the years past the present day WWE product. So this series would be putting you into a situation where you would review WWE pay-per-views from the past years of the WWE product. The way you will get the new pay-per-views from the past to review is via the viewer's choice. Whatever the viewers ask you to review, you put the events into a list and you review them in different videos each week. I think it would be great, and I hope that you enjoy making the series if you actually form the series. I wish you luck in everything that you do. Until then, I give you a big thank you from Rose Line, and I guess I will see you at work. Have a good day." This question, if it is from Rose Line, the question is by someone from USW. She is one of the announcers. I believe I think there's Simon McDonald, who's like the intensity announcer, and Roseline is the announcer for Ferocity, and she's also the interviewer for Intensity. So I work with her on a weekly basis, and I guess I will review WrestleMania 24. So if you watched to this point, thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Um, if you have a pay-per-view that is not from, at this point in time, 2015, and you want me to review that pay-per-view, leave them in the comments below. I will review anything. Anything that's not like a current pay-per-view. I mean, I would review something up if it's a pay-per-view that has happened a month before. Like if you wanted me to review WWE, well, if it's something that I haven't reviewed before, then you can have me review it and leave that in the comments. I will review WrestleMania 24 here today. I will review fucking anything from 2008, 2007, 2006, whatever. I'm currently in the middle of watching almost every pay-per-view known to man. But apparently, I guess on WrestleMania, or at WrestleMania 24, there was 10 different matches. I can't really talk about the dark match because I didn't watch that, but apparently the dark match was Kane eliminating Mark Henry in a 24-man battle royal for the ECW championship match later in the night. Whatever. And I guess we'll just jump into the review. So second match we had on the card was JBL beating Finlay with Hornswoggle in a Belfast brawl. Of course, this was during the storyline where Hornswoggle was revealed to be Vince McMahon's illegitimate son or bastard son, and JBL had started beating down Hornswoggle as that would lead up to JBL telling Vince McMahon that Hornswoggle is not his son. So all that worked around to him telling Vince McMahon that Finlay is Hornswoggle's father, and that led to Finlay versus JBL in a Belfast brawl. The match went on for a while. Finlay got some offense. There were points where Finlay, I think, threw some trash cans into the ring, stacked them up, and then JBL used them all to his advantage. Tossed a fucking trash can outside the ring at Hornswoggle, knocked the poor little guy down to the ground. Finlay then got hit into a clothesline from hell, and JBL picked up the victory. All in all, it was a good match. It was a good match. It didn't go overboard. It didn't take a long amount of time. It didn't run its course, and it also wasn't like a shorter match or shorter than it should have been. But it was what led up to JBL beating Finlay. Okay. And that would all, of course, lead to John Bradshaw Layfield versus John Cena in that feud. And Finlay would go on in other feuds or different matches, whatever. He would team with Hornswoggle and face John Morrison and The Miz and whatever going on into the next coming months. All in all, it was a good match. It was one of those matches that was a good choice to kick off the main card. And of course, it was something that if I had to go back and watch, if I had the choice to go back and watch it, and just for either whatever sakes, for fun times, whatever, I would say this isn't one of the must-see matches on the card, but it was definitely a match you could sit through and not have to kind of roll your eyes out. Or if you were watching back the pay-per-view again, then it would be something that you wouldn't need to take a bathroom break to watch. All in all, it was an alright match. It was 3-star worthy. This led into the third match of the total card, which was the Money in the Bank ladder match between CM Punk, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho, Carlito, Montel Vontanius Porter, MVP, Mr. Kennedy, and John Morrison. Of course, my favorite wrestler of all time, Jeff Hardy, was also scheduled to be in the match. However, he was busted for drugs and whatever, so he was taken out of the Money in the Bank ladder match, and many people speculate that Jeff Hardy was supposed to be booked to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. Of course, this match ended with CM Punk winning. He, I believe, the ending came about when Chris Jericho was locked in the ladder, and he was landing back, so his legs were locked in the ladder while he was leaning back on the ladder, allowing CM Punk to grab the Money in the Bank briefcase and become Mr. Money in the Bank. He would, of course, win this Money in the Bank and the following year's Money in the Bank, be not only the first person to win the Money in the Bank twice, but win the Money in the Bank two times in a row. So, of course, he would cash in this Money in the Bank contract later on in the year on Edge to win the World Heavyweight Championship, and he would lose the world title without actually losing it in a match. He would just be attacked, and then, of course, at Unforgiven, he'd be booked to lose the title via not being able to compete. And then the next year, he would cash in, of course, on Jeff Hardy, win the world title. That would culminate in a feud that would ultimately kick Jeff Hardy out of the WWE. He'd feud with The Undertaker the following year. But anyway, this is probably one of the most must-see matches on the card. It was just all-out chaos. There was a spot where John Morrison, also formerly known as Johnny Nitro, and I believe now known as Johnny Mundo in Lucha Underground, and also on the independent scene. Of course, his name is John Hennigan. But John Morrison, with a backflip with a smaller ladder, backflip off of the corner into the outside onto everybody else. This was a spot where probably one of the most infamous spots in Money in the Bank ladder match history, where Shelton Benjamin was on the top of a ladder. Mr. Kennedy and Carlito knocked the ladder over. Shelton Benjamin went flying over the top rope, way over the top rope, and through a ladder that was placed on the barricade and on the ring. he went through that, one of the most infamous moments in Money in the Bank history, similar to the Jeff Hardy fucking flying leg drop onto Edge through a ladder in the same way the previous year at WrestleMania 23 in the Money in the Bank ladder match. But then there was, of course, the MVP had a chance to win, but Matt Hardy, who MVP took out of action, came jumping over the barricade, went up to the top of the ladder, and hit the twist of fate on MVP, knocking him off the ladder, costing him the Money in the Bank briefcase. Mr. Kennedy getting his chance at winning the Money in the Bank taken away the same way he took away CM Punk's chances at winning the Money in the Bank a previous year by getting hit in the face with a ladder by, of course, CM Punk. So it was vice versa this next year. And then that led into CM Punk getting the win and ultimately becoming Mr. Money in the Bank for the first time out of 2 times. And then that would pretty much lead the Money in the Bank to be one of the most must-see matches on the card. It was, of course, a 4-star worthy match. It was definitely a match that you wouldn't want to miss if you were looking back at the pay-per-view. Then you had the 4th match. Batista, representing SmackDown, beat Umaga, representing Raw, in the battle for brand supremacy. Of course, this was back when the brand extension was still in effect, so you still had the SmackDown brand and the Raw brand. That was back when John Cena was on the Raw brand, and he wasn't allowed to face anybody on SmackDown because they were there. It was like NXT and WWE now. It's Raw and SmackDown are their own brands, like the main roster, and NXT is the rookie roster. So they're like 2 brands that you don't really meet each other all that often unless the rookies are coming up to the main roster. In that case, they join the main roster. This was pretty much that, but there was no this guy would join this guy unless, or this guy would join this brand and leave that brand, unless, of course, you were drafted, or it was in the draft that you were put on one roster to another roster. This was when SmackDown, Raw, and ECW were all its own brand. Batista was representing SmackDown. Umaga was representing Raw. Late Umaga. Batista beat Umaga. It was one of those matches you could pretty much skip through. It only lasted 7 minutes, and I believe Batista won after a spear. I don't know. I think it was a spear. Of course, it could have been a Batista bomb, but either way, Batista won SmackDown, emerged supreme over Raw. It was an alright match. I would rate it 2 stars. It wasn't definitely a match that you would want to go back and see. Next match was the 5th match. It was for the ECW Championship. It lasted 11 seconds. Kane defeated Chavo Guerrero to become the new ECW champion. Of course, Kane beat Mark Henry earlier in the night to win a shot against Chavo Guerrero for the ECW Championship. Kane appeared, or he went into the ropes, or he went underneath the bottom rope from the back. So, or where the commentators are, that's where Kane entered. Sneaked behind Chavo. Chavo turned around, looked at it. The bell rung. Chavo got caught in the choke slam. Choke slam by Kane. 1, 2, 3. Kane wins. Kane's the new ECW champion. Quickest championship changing hands in WrestleMania history to this day. I mean, this is obviously 1 star. No, this is nothing. This doesn't deserve a rating. It was nothing. So, of course, this is something that you would be able to skip. You'd be able to go to the bathroom, come back, and you would go to the bathroom before the match started, before Chavo entered. Take a shit, quick shit, wash your hands, come back, and the match would have already been over. Kane would be walking up the ramp with the ECW title. That's pretty much that. Doesn't deserve a rating. You can skip it. Moving on. 6th match, one of the best matches in WrestleMania history. Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. If Ric Flair lost, he would have to retire. The match went on for, I think, all of about 20 minutes. Shawn Michaels would, I think, one of the points he would hit one of those backflips off of the rope through the outside. Ric Flair would move, and Shawn Michaels would go through the, I believe, Raw, or I think the Raw announce table. And there were so many great spots on the card, or on the match. In the match, there was one point where Shawn Michaels would go for Sweet Chin Music. However, he would halt in the middle of it, and Ric Flair would just take him down for the figure 4. Shawn Michaels would reverse it, of course, reversing the pressure, get out of it, and then that led up to Shawn Michaels hitting a Sweet Chin Music out of nowhere, getting into the corner. Ric Flair getting out of his knees, saying, "Fight, let's fight." And that would, of course, lead up to the infamous words via Shawn Michaels, which were right before hitting the sweet chin music. He'd be like, he would be like, before hitting the sweet chin music, he said, "I'm sorry, I love you." Sweet chin music, 1, 2, 3. Shawn Michaels gets out of the pin, immediately flips around, holds Ric Flair's head to his head, leaves the ring, sits on the apron, looking down, now knowing that he will forever be known as the man who ended Ric Flair's career. Walks up the ramp, Ric Flair's, crying in the ring, crying out of joy, out of happiness over the career he's had, and of course leaves, going out the ramp to the crowd saying, "Thank you, Flair. Thank you, Flair." And that would, of course, lead up to the celebration of Ric Flair's career on the following Monday Night Raw, where everybody would just come out to the ramp. They would be, clapping towards Ric Flair. Vince McMahon would come out. The Undertaker, who would end up breaking character for Ric Flair, which you never see the Undertaker do. It was just a great moment, and this was a great match. This was worth 5 stars. Definitely worth the rewatch. It's something you really can't skip, and this is probably the match you would want to see. If you were watching any match from WrestleMania 24, this would be the match you would want to see. 5-star worthy match. 7th match on the card, definitely a skippable match. Beth Phoenix and Melina with Santino Marella would defeat Maria and Ashley in the Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. 5 minutes long. Yeah, I believe at one point the power went out during it, so the spotlights just had to be shown on the ring. At one point, Santino Marella would pull Maria off of, I believe, Melina, win a pin combination while the referee wasn't looking. Jerry the King Lawler got out of his booth, turned Santino around, punched him square in the face. Santino would go down to the ground. Jerry Lawler would he would walk back to the commentary table like this, and of course that would lead up to Melina hitting whatever the fuck her finishing maneuver was, I believe on Maria, getting the win. Melina, Beth Phoenix, Santino would go up the ramp. Maria and Ashley would be in the ring. Snoop Dogg, who's, I guess, the master of ceremonies, whatever, got in the ring. I guess comforted Maria. They, I think, made out for some reason, because I guess it's Snoop Dogg, so celebrity. And that would be it. 5 minutes. Didn't go overboard. I mean, well, I guess it kind of did go overboard. It should have been just a calm down match from what was one of the best WrestleMania matches I've ever seen, in Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. It should have just gone like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I get you had to do those stupid spots. You had, of course, the Lumberjills, which were, I believe, Mickie James, Katie Lee Burchill. You had Cherry. You had, I think Maurice was involved. I think you had Eve Torres. You had a few others that I don't really remember at this moment in time, but it was pretty much a lumberjack match just with the Divas, so it became a Lumberjill match. Yeah, Beth Phoenix and Melina won. That's that. 2-star worthy match, I guess. 8th match on the card, the triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Randy Orton defended the title against John Cena and Triple H. And one of the very few times where John Cena did not come out the victor in a WrestleMania match. Randy Orton beat John Cena and Triple H. I think it was Triple H hit the pedigree on John Cena, went to the cover, Randy Orton hit the temple kick, knocked Triple H out, pinned Triple H, and got the victory. So Randy Orton retained the WWE Championship, which he would later go on to lose in the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match, where at Backlash, where JBL will get eliminated, and John Cena would get eliminated, and Randy Orton would get eliminated, and Triple H would become the WWE Champion. This was a great match. It was worth 4 stars. It was just high-tempoed. They would gang up on Randy Orton, and then they would gang up on John Cena, and they would gang up on Triple H, and it was just an all-out clusterfuck, but a good clusterfuck. And Randy Orton would come out the victor. 4-star worthy match. Definitely one of the better matches you would want to see on the card. There were only 3 real matches that you wouldn't want to miss, which would, of course, be Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, Randy Orton versus John Cena versus Triple H, and Undertaker versus Edge for the world title, which I'll get into later on. And then there were, of course, the other matches that you wouldn't want to skip, but you wouldn't count them as the biggest matches, which were the Money in the Bank ladder match, and probably JBL versus Finlay. Yeah, that would lead up to the 9th match, which was the no disqualification match pitting the world's largest athlete, the Big Show, against against the best fighter in the world, which was Floyd Mayweather Jr. Of course, the Big Show was over, even though he was the heel in this situation. Floyd Mayweather was being booed because he's in the wrestling world. He's not in boxing. He's in pure professional wrestling. So Big Show would go taunt to the crowd. One more? Yeah. Elbow drop to Mayweather. Big Show, I mean, the match started out where Floyd Mayweather would be dodging punches by Big Show, throwing his own punches towards the Big Show, walking back, to make sure he didn't get taken down by the Big Show because the Big Show is much taller than him. And it was just really weird throughout the match because even though you were concentrating on this fact being a wrestling match, not only did you focus on there was one wrestler and one boxer, but also you had Floyd Mayweather's entourage with him, and then it was his manager or whatever who would when Big Show would step on Floyd Mayweather and would just stand on Floyd Mayweather's chest. You're like, you can't do that. He can't do that. Although, of course, in my head, I'm thinking, idiot. It's a fucking wrestling match, not a boxing match. And of course, I'm not a big I don't like boxing. I don't know why. I'm more of a pure wrestling fan. I don't like mixed martial arts. I don't like boxing. But when I see someone who doesn't belong in the wrestling world or doesn't belong in a wrestling match, I'm like, kick his fucking ass. And whoever's in that guy's corner, I'm like, I hope you fucking get injured here. And that's the same with fucking Mayweather's entourage. Of course, his manager would get thrown to the ground by Big Show. Floyd Mayweather would try to run away or would try to walk away with his entourage as his entourage carried him. Big Show was like, nope, powered through his entourage, pulled fucking Floyd Mayweather Jr. back into the ring. And that would, of course, lead to Floyd Mayweather Jr. taking off his glove, getting the brass knuckles after hitting Big Show with the chair a few times, punching Big Show square in the jaw. And Floyd Mayweather Jr. would beat Big Show via knockout, although that's really not, if it's going to be a no disqualification match, and it's also a wrestling match, not a boxing match, in order for you to count to 10, both Floyd Mayweather Jr. and the Big Show would have to be on the ground. And then once one person got to their feet, the count would stop. So in this case scenario, since it was a no disqualification wrestling match, and the rules of boxing should not and did not apply or belong in this match, the only way Big Show should have lost was if Floyd Mayweather was able to pretty much do the similar thing to knocking a cow off his feet just by pushing him, by pushing the Big Show over and covering him. That's the only way Floyd Mayweather should have won. Otherwise, it would have been by submission. He could have just put him in a crossface, had Big Show, his hand just flop against that. That's the only way he could have won by knockout. But anyway, fucking Floyd Mayweather won by knockout because, of course, he's Floyd Mayweather. He's not a wrestler, so he should be put over, even though that really makes no sense. Although it was against the Big Show, so I wouldn't blame them too much if they didn't want to put Big Show over. But still, he's a wrestler, and Floyd Mayweather is in a wrestling world, so now I bet they're kicking themselves in the ass now that Floyd Mayweather has beaten a woman. And now they pretty much said, all right, so this boxer beat a giant in a wrestling match. And he would go on later, in his life to beat up a woman and also not be able to read anything except his name, and he can't even read his name that well. Stay in school, kids, and get off of video games and at least read a book or two in your life. Whatever, they pretty much promoted that leading on. Although I know they didn't think that would end up happening, just like they didn't think the Chris Benoit incident wouldn't happen. Well, the same with Eddie Guerrero. They don't expect these kinds of things, but in reality, when they put them over, it's pretty much like saying, hey, remember when we supported this guy? So that's pretty much a similar thing as saying, hey, remember when we gave Chris Benoit the championship in the main event of WrestleMania 20? He became the world champion and dropped it to Randy Orton in that year's SummerSlam. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. He went on to kill his family and then his wife and his 7-year-old son and then himself. So we supported that guy, which is, of course, why you never hear the words Chris Benoit come out of anybody's mouth related to the WWE. But anyway, enough ranting about this match. It's done and over with. I guess it's just worth 1 star. It's nothing you would want to watch. And it went really overboard. I know the Big Show had a long time with the offense, but it just went a little overboard. I could have dealt with 8 minutes, but it went on a full 12 minutes. So whatever. And the ending was just stupid. So whatever. Wasn't something that you would go back and want to watch unless you're a big fan of boxing. In that case, you can watch a boxer beat a giant, large wrestler. This led to the 10th match and the main event of the evening, The Undertaker versus Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship, with Edge having Vicky Guerrero, Kurt Hawkins, and Zack Ryder in his corner with La Familia. The match went on for 25 minutes. Undertaker beat Edge with a triangle submission hold. So Undertaker became the new World Heavyweight Champion. That would extend his streak to, I believe, 16-0, if I'm not mistaken. It was a good match. It was, of course, one of the only 3, maybe 4 matches that you would want to watch back when watching WrestleMania 24. Excuse me. But yeah, it was a good match. Of course, this would lead to a feud between Edge and The Undertaker, in which Edge would get, or Undertaker would get stripped of the world title. They'd fight for it at fucking Judgment Day, and Undertaker would win by count out, but Vicky Guerrero would reverse the decision, so the world title still stayed vacant. Then we would go into one night stand, and if the Undertaker didn't win, he would be forced to leave WWE. And Edge won, so Edge won the world title. And then Edge got caught cheating on Vicky Guerrero when they got married, so Vicky Guerrero reinstated The Undertaker, had Edge face The Undertaker at SummerSlam 2008 in a Hell in a Cell match, in which The Undertaker would come out victorious over Edge. At that point in time, though, Edge was not the world champion. CM Punk was. At that point, the WWE title belonged to the SmackDown brand, and the World Heavyweight title was belonging on the Raw brand, which was kind of mind-boggling for me, even for the entire year. Of course, the ECW title stayed on ECW. But yeah, back then, the titles were just shipping back into different matches. This was 4-star worthy match. Definitely not the best match on the card, but it was the longest on the card, and it was a very good match. So, yeah, key parts of this pay-per-view were Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Orton, Cena, Triple H, and Undertaker versus Edge. You can skip the Divas title or the Divas match between Beth Phoenix and Melina versus Maria and Ashley. You can skip Kane and Chavo Guerrero, and you can really skip Floyd Mayweather Jr. and The Big Show. And then if you wanted to watch other parts, then Batista versus Umaga was a spot you can watch, and JBL versus Finlay. But yeah, all in all, it was a good show. It was probably 4 stars worthy. It was much better than a lot of other WrestleManias we had before, and a few other WrestleManias that we would have going forward. But it was a solid show. Is this show worth watching in the long run? Looking back at it and looking back at the product we have had back in 2008 at that point in time, and now we have in 2015. Of course, this is a pay-per-view that you would want to watch if you wanted to relive the good old days, well, the better days of the more modern era. Is this pay-per-view just worth watching in general because it was a good show? Shit. Was it worth watching in general? Yeah, it was. It's definitely something you can go back and watch and enjoy. There was nothing bad or wrong with this pay-per-view. The only thing that I didn't like were that we had some pieces of shit on the pay-per-view. Well, but the pay-per-view was enjoyable. It was definitely tolerable. And thank you, Roseline, for giving me that suggestion. So thank you guys for watching. This was my review of WrestleMania 24. If you have anything for me to, if you have another pay-per-view that I have not reviewed yet that you would like me to review, put it in the comments below, and I will review it in the next episode. Well, I'll go down the list. And if you want to send it to my email, go ahead, send it to my email. But remember, as always, follow me on Twitter at Zachary Sarah. Updates on the channel and whatnot. Follow me, or I'm sorry, if you have a question for me to answer on the Hardyac Wrestling Podcast or the Hardyac Questions and Answers, send them to unitards@gmail.com. That's unitards, my name, with 2 Z's at the end, at gmail.com. And I will answer them on the next episode of the Hardyac Wrestling Podcast or the Hardyac Questions and Answers series. But until then, yeah. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. I am Zach Hardy. Sorry. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, like, favorite, and subscribe for more. I'm Zach Hardy, signing off.